Hello, and welcome to the Afterspark podcast, an episode-by-episode recap of the Generation 1 Transformers cartoon. I'm Els.
And I'm Specs.
And today, we are entering Season 3, and we will be talking about Episode 66, The 5 Faces of Darkness, Part 1.
Part 1.
A 5. 5! But let's talk about giant robots today, shall we?
Yep, but let's get to it.
So, may we interest you in a theme song that goes ba, ba, ba all the way through?
So much ba all the way through. And the animation just does not flow as well as the animation in the previous intro. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, it is. I really like if you've seen the intros, I feel like the one for season 2 is definitely the best. It's got a lot of movement and action in it, but it doesn't feel as slapdash as this for some reason.
Yeah, it's very cohesive with the way it directs your eye around and how it makes you follow the action.
But we open season 3 with the end of the movie, but animated much, much worse.
Yep. All the Autobots burst out of Unicron's eye, he blows up, and now his head is orbiting Cybertron as the universe's most morbid moon.
The Autobots are the victors of the war, and Rodimus Prime is now in charge.
Much to his consternation, I think. The Decepticons have been left leaderless after Galvatron's apparent demise and have retreated to a planet called Char.
Our narrator literally calls it a burned-out planet, so it is certainly not the most pleasant location to be.
Yep, and our first views of it are very depressing. The Constructicons watch as Astrotrain has a bumpy landing, and then they fight over what meager energon Astrotrain has retrieved.
Astrotrain, weak and half-transformed, also tries to take some of the energon, but the Constructicons attempt to combine and take the energon from him.
We say attempt because one of the arms is so low on energy that he just hits and then falls off.
But before Devastator can imbibe on some high-quality energon, Menasor pops up and sends Devastator collapsing into his individual components like a house of cards with one whack of his sword.
As Cyclonus and the Sweeps fly up, they shoot off some Insecticons, also attempting to make off with the energon.
They also shoot poor Astrotrain, who just seems super freaking tired at this point.
Honestly, it makes me wonder why Astrotrain just didn't stop somewhere and take some of the energon himself.
Maybe he was afraid if he stopped, he wouldn't get back.
That's true. A very real possibility.
So Cyclonus lectures the group about squabbling over energon and asks if this is the way they honor the memory of Galvatron.
They had him for all of 5 minutes.
In Cyclonus' defense, he was literally created to simp for Galvatron.
That's true, but 5 minutes! Astrotrain remarks that it wasn't like this when Megatron was in charge. In the time of Megatron!
Cyclonus and the Sweeps show off some of their more culty instincts by saluting and chanting Galvatron's name.
And then Astrotrain just remarks, well, they were the same guy.
Elsewhere, at the Alien Olympics,
Ultra Magnus and company are evidently there to represent Cybertron.
We see on Earth, Bumblebee and Warpath are watching a transmission of the event, and hey, Warpath survived the purge! Hey, buddy!
I wonder how good their transmissions are if they're able to watch it in real time.
Who knows?
One reason to live in the Transformers universe.
Fantastic galactic cable.
Yeah. With the major cons being the giant alien robot attacks.
Yeah. Ultra Magnus introduces Rodimus, who definitely does not want to be here, and just says to begin the games instead of, giving a speech.
Yeah. Like, Ultra Magnus asks him to make a speech, and then Rodimus is just like, no. And Rodimus is absolutely not qualified for this job. His only qualifications are opening a shiny bauble and then getting body modifications from God.
Yeah, the gods here seem to like to do that for some fucking reason.
Yeah. The Olympics begin in earnest, with Jazz competing in a multi-mode obstacle race against some other alien cars or possibly other Cybertronians. It's really not clear.
Bumblebee comments that he thought Blur was going to be in this race before we cut to a sulky Blur complaining about not being in the race.
Percy is sending Blur and Wheelie out on an important mission.
An important delivery mission.
They're not messenger boys, they're delivery boys.
They have been tasked with delivering a replacement transformation cog to Metroplex.
Well, I mean, maybe this is an explanation for why he didn't transform in the movie.
Maybe, yeah.
Blur questions why they didn't use a delivery service, but Percy says they couldn't let their enemies find out that Metroplex is effectively defenseless at the moment. I mean, it would have been more anonymous.
Hey, why did they need Blur? It's not like he's driving in space. It would have been better to send Jazz and have Blur be in the race. At least Jazz arguably has some kind of espionage experience.
Yeah, instead we've got, if they get boarded, Blur can potentially
talk them to death.
Yes. Jazz does win his race, though.
Jazz is out there living his best life, and I love it. Good for him. Like, I am so happy for him.
And then Blur is just very angry he wasn't in this race. Speedy Boy is pissed.
An ominous voice and tentacle monologues hinting that the Autobots shall soon know despair.
There's so many tentacles in this show.
And for once, this one's not Megatron's fault.
An agent of this ominous voice blows up what appears to be an Olympic flame analog after receiving a transmission.
The resulting smoke throws off the Autobot sensors as some more evil aliens are dropped into the arena,
who promptly make a beeline for Spike and his family.
Springer takes to the air to extinguish the source of the smoke,
which upon clearing they find that Spike, Ultra Magnus, and Cup have been kidnapped.
Rodimus declares that this planet is under quarantine until they find their friends. Immediately thereafter, a spaceship comes up from the ground and flies off.
Well, Rodimus, that declaration went to shit immediately. Springer and RC run off to get a ship to pursue, leaving Rodimus in the dust.
Rodimus mutters, "Why do I have to be the chosen one?" And again, Roddy really does not want to be here, and I hate it. Like, I feel bad for Roddy on some level, sure, but I feel worse for everyone underneath him, because, like, this man, this bot, he must be the world's worst fucking manager.
Like, he doesn't want to be here. Apparently, he just cannot say no and step down. Like, most jobs, you can do that.
Yeah, no, you can't tell that a Primus, Roddy!
On a spaceship leaving Cybertron, Blur continues to complain about being on a stupid mission as Wheelie drives.
Why are we letting the robot toddler drive?
I mean, he's as much an adult as Blur is. They pass by Unicron's head, where Cyclonus and the Sweeps are hiding out. And Cyclonus is, like, huge in this shot for some reason.
Also, I realize they're probably trying to do shadows here, but in actuality, it makes Cyclonus look like his colors are purple and deep magenta instead of, like, purple and white.
Yeah, it looks pretty weird. Cyclonus and the Sweeps enter Unicron's head, and there's some scaling issues here, I think.
Cyclonus tells the others there's no need for fear because Unicron's dead.
They hear a strange noise, and Cyclonus marks that it must be the wind.
And then Scourge does my job for me and comments that there is not wind in space.
They enter Unicron's memory bank to get a visual on Galvatron being thrown out into space, which I have to question if they're also keeping track of where the hell the head was when he was thrown out into space, because it's orbiting a planet now. They can't just go based on...
I mean, I would assume they did some forethought, since this does in fact work. Spoiler.
Yeah.
They figure out their leader's trajectory and follow it to the planet Thrall. I feel like calling this planet is generous.
Yeah, well, the Intergalactic Olympics planet did not look much like a planet either.
Now you see, nowadays they'd be dwarf planet.
In a lava pit on Thrill, we see an ominous purple hand.
And now to Earth, I hope you're prepared for a very racist thing in this cartoon.
Possibly the most racist. We are introduced to Abdul Fakadi, the dictator for life of Carbamia, along with many other titles.
I would love to know the fucking thought process and why the writer thought this shit was okay. I know this was the 80s, I know the culture was different, but like, Carbamia? Really? But really? Like, that's what you went with. You thought that was okay. That passed by, I'm assuming, several fucking people. Like, holy shit. But yeah, no, it's like, it's just very much not okay. It's not okay they did this. I don't know why they did this. I would love to be like, dude, what the fuck?
It's a travesty that they've decided to do something so racist.
It was the 80s.
Blaster and Outback, brand new Minibot guys, are attempting to land in Carbamia to search for the on-the-run Decepticons, who apparently aren't on Char.
Also, Blaster is evidently now part of EDC, or the Earth Defense Command.
Abdul denies harboring such criminals, but Blaster lands anyway.
Commenting on how are they going to find those Decepticons? As we can see, Decepticons out their window.
Yes, because no one pays attention to the faction insignias in this cartoon, apparently.
I'm like convinced they can't see them or something.
That's entirely possible. So Outback, the new guy, is a small brown bot who turns into a mini SUV. He has an Aussie accent and sounds like he's from Australia.
Outback uses a Decepticon detector to spook out Thrust and Ramjet.
So the thing is, the Decepticon detector doesn't do shit. They're basically they're psyching them out.
They lied.
Yep. They promptly crash once Outback tosses some kind of mega smoke bomb out at them, and the Autobots are able to get the location of Char from them.
While they don't have conclusive proof that the Decepticons are the ones that kidnapped their friends, Rodimus intends to go to Char and check it out for himself.
Yep. And Percy tells him that he shouldn't go alone and offers to come.
But Roddy reminds him of what happened to Cup and Magnus, to which Percy promptly volunteers Grimlock. Part of me is like, that's kind of a dick move, Percy, but on the other hand, like, Grim is so excited to be here, guys.
He wants to go out. He wants to kick some Decepticon keister. Some Decepticon tail, if you will.
In space, Springer and RC continue to tail the ship from earlier before being caught in a trap.
A giant metal claw comes out of an asteroid and begins crushing their ship. It's like the weirdest claw game.
So, surprise, the asteroid's a ship.
The two escape, and upon entering the disguised asteroid ship, find an alien who is presumably the one controlling the claw.
This species is called a Skuxoid. They are a bipedal alien with reptilian traits, basically.
Yep. RC sends the alien on his way after he confirms, in quote marks, that his employers are Decepticons.
Spoiler, they are not. The Decepticons are fighting over Energon. They don't have any money.
They're like 2 steps away from having babies stealing candy from them, and that's if they had candy, which they don't.
True.
So RC and Springer steal the asteroid ship, with RC asking if Springer knows how to fly this thing.
They do loopy-loops. I legitimately cannot tell if Springer is being sarcastic in this entire scene about actually knowing how to fly this kind of ship or not, because I'm like, well, if the loopy-loops were on purpose, then yes, presumably he does, but if they weren't, then no! And I'm not really sure.
Well, I mean, they're in space. It's not like there's a tree that he can run into.
That's true.
Unless somehow there is some delicate, well-known, intergalactic landmark. Which inevitably, that is the sort of thing that people run into out in open, vast open spaces where they should be able to avoid all that shit.
It reminds me of this episode of Bob's Burgers where Bob is trying to show his daughter how to drive and she manages to run into the one car in this completely empty parking lot. Now I'm just imagining that, but with RC and Springer.
And RC is just so done.
Very done.
So the Skuxoid calls his employers, well, his actual employers, to report on the Autobots' movements just as Spike, Magnus, and Cup are ushered into the room.
Back on Char, the Decepticons, minus Cyclonus and Scourge, are arguing about what to do next.
Onslaught is arguing that they can barely fend for themselves, let alone take on the Autobots.
Onslaught has one of the very few brain cells bouncing around the Decepticon troops right now, methinks.
I mean, he's the one with military tactical experience, so yeah.
I love that the more I watch this, the more I like them.
Yeah. And then Motormaster is arguing that they need a good leader, just as Cyclonus and the others arrive.
Cyclonus announces that Galvatron survived and calls for the Decepticons to donate their Energon so that they can go rescue him.
Up above the Decepticon encampment, Rodimus and Grimlock are looking down on the sorry scenario unfolding below them with the Decepticons, barely able to move, donating their energon.
Rodimus reaches the conclusion that the Decepticons are definitely not behind the kidnapping.
He also says that he feels bad for them, but Grimlock disagrees, finding the situation funny.
He is immediately heard by Cyclonus, who orders the Decepticons to attack.
The rock formation that Roddy and Grim are standing and or possibly lying on, I don't know, it looks like a wonky-ass pillar spire thingy, is shot out from underneath them, and they go ass over tea kettle all the way down into the Decepticon encampment.
And that's it for part 1. Join us next time for the 5 Faces of Darkness part 2, or the Return of Galvatron.
Oh, Galvatron. We're really in it now.
Yep.
We're really in it now. Pool of lava. Yeah, we did have fanfic recs for this, didn't we? So yeah, we had 2 fanfic recommendations, one from myself and one from Els. The first is Snapshots by Pura Jazzbot, all one word. It's in the G1 cartoon continuity. It's rated K+, it's Gen, there's no pairings, and the characters are the G1 Autobots in general. In summary, 1,000 words can paint a picture book of memories, just like it's done here. And this is specifically post-Transformers the movie. So that's why I picked it. And it's a one-shot, and it's post-movie reflections and goodbyes. So let's go over to Els.
My recommendation is New Face, Old Memory by Bluefingers, or POPP_writing_group. It is in the Shattered Glass continuity. It is rated G. It is / Our pairing is Megatron Starscream or Galvatron Starscream. Our characters are Starscream, Shockwave, and Galvatron. In summary, Galvatron takes his place as the leader of the Decepticons, and Starscream doesn't know who to expect when he has to meet what's become of the person he used to be. Well, Shattered Glass. I picked this one for reformatted Megatron. It's cute. It's cute and short. Also, if you're unaware, in the at least original Shattered Glass continuity, Megatron is reformatted into Galvatron as well.
So is Unicron like a big good in that universe?
If I'm remembering properly, I think it's been a while since I've read it. The problem is, God, it's been too long since I read Shattered Glass. I think Optimus actually gets reformatted as a good guy or something, I think. It's very weird. It, doesn't quite do exactly mirror the movie. But I can't remember how Galvatron got back, because I'm I don't remember if it was Unicron or not.
Okay. And that just about wraps it up for us today. Remember to check us out on Tumblr or Pillowport as Afterspark-podcast for any additional information, show notes, or links we may have mentioned. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at AftersparkPod, all one word, and various other locations by searching for Afterspark Podcast, such as AO3, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, just to name a few. And feel free to send us questions on Tumblr, YouTube, or AO3. Till next time, I'm Specs.
And I'm Els.
Doodles! There's an explosion in midair, filmed from all sides.